Good day, good evening, good morning, beautiful people. We're here again with two sinners on a Sunday. My name is Evans.
I'm Allie, and I'm excited to be with you.
Today we are going to talk about a very fun topic. It's lighthearted and maybe serious. We will try to keep all of it professional as best as we can. Today we're going to talk about ridiculous things that Ali believed as a Mormon.
Yeah,
So I might chime in to give my own experience in
please.
in some of the things that I inevitably will relate to because
Yeah.
as a Christian Seventh-day Adventist, Mormonism, we are just distant cousins. We just don't know each
Yeah.
other. It's one of those
Yeah.
cousins that you've heard of the name but you've never met kind of thing. I'm really intrigued. If you guys are intrigued about Nephi and are intrigued about Joseph Smith, Ali might bless us with some secrets. She might not, but I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we get some secrets. All right. Okay. So Ali,
I'm going to focus
Mormonism.
more on the ridiculous things. I think we can do an entire podcast just on the secret things. These are going to be ridiculous things that are a
Oh.
little bit more
Okay.
known and some unknown. All right, number one for me was that Heavenly Mother existed, but we shouldn't talk about her. So, the whole
Oh.
concept is that we pray to our Heavenly Father, and we know that there's a Heavenly Mother, but we don't worship her. We don't talk about her. I mean, literally, we even bringing her up in any kind of conversation was considered taboo.
Does she have a name?
And she doesn't have a name. We do not know her name,
Oh.
and we don't know very much about her. We just know that she is Heavenly Father's wife and that she produced
Ah.
all of us spirit children that have come to the earth. What one thing that had always bothered me about that was just like, okay, the concept was this. So, Heavenly Father is the person that we pray to, and we love him and we worship him, only talk and direct our prayers to him.
Okay.
And with Heavenly Mother, the explanation, the rationale was always given that she is so holy that we just don't talk about her. Like, Heavenly Father wouldn't want us to talk about her. So, for example, you know how we swear, a person could swear and say, "Oh my God."
Right.
Um, it would be awful. It would be even worse if we said, "Oh my goddess," or something
Right.
about the feminine divine. Here's my take on this. After becoming a mother and I producing my own children and loving on them and being a part of their lives, I realized like if I were a heavenly mother, I would want to have a relationship with my children. Would
Yeah.
I really put myself on a pedestal and think, oh, I'm so high above everybody else that I wouldn't want my children to ever contact me? I would never want my
Yeah.
children to have a connection with me.
And it's strange as well because it's Heavenly Father that is speaking on behalf of Heavenly Mother, saying that apparently
Absolutely.
she is more holier than thou
That's
and she
right.
doesn't want to speak to you. It really rings of these creepy movies, when it's like this creepy, old man who lives in a house with his wife where no one in the neighborhood ever sees the wife and it's kind of like a secret thing and it's like, what's
Hmm.
going on with the wife? And it's
That's
like,
right.
oh no, she's fine. She's perfectly happy. Look, she's smiling. Here are pictures of us and her. We're a happy family. In fact,
I
she's
know.
so happy that she
Right.
just doesn't even need to leave the house. That's how
Yeah.
happy she is. Trust me, she is
Yeah.
really happy, right? And it's like, well, but can she just step outside, And it's like,
Yeah.
no, she doesn't need to step
No.
outside.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to step. What do you mean? She's so happy inside that she doesn't need to step outside.
Have you seen the movie The Stepford Wives?
No.
I think that's what you're talking about. There's a movie
Okay.
called The Stepford Wives. It's kind of one of those psychological horror movies
Interesting.
where this
Right.
neighborhood of men have basically created these robotic wives to be there
Oh.
for their pleasure, to be there to be like the perfect women to dote on them. And that's kind of what you're describing. And in
Wow.
essence, in Mormonism, the excuse is that she's so sacred that that's why we don't talk about her. But in everything that I've learned about my own humanity and my own relationship with my children, I would actually think that a heavenly mother would crave and seek after that connection with her children, if not even more than that of a man. And so, again, I think it's patriarchy at play,
Yes.
where we
Yes.
don't want to give the woman any more credit than is due, and we want to keep this story centered on the male,
Yeah.
and on the female it's like, oh yeah, let's not even go there, let's not even talk about it. She's so important that she's just not part of the story.
Right. You guys need to check on your God's wife because she, for all we know, she's in a wardrobe with a duct tape on her mouth, just screaming.
Help me.
Right,
I
help
want access to my children.
me. And then
And
he's like, she's more holier than all of you.
right.
She's fine.
And the sad thing is that we have these prophets today and that are supposed to receive revelation and seek understanding on all kinds of things. And I know that a lot of females in the church have wanted to know more about Heavenly Mother, and the answer always
Mm.
is, well, we don't know. God hasn't told us. And to me, again, that just shows that, again, it's very patriarchal, and any religion that, just centers one gender over another.
It also reminds me about like a family drama where you have one parent that has been
Mm,
alienated from their children, and then the other parent says, "Daddy is
sure.
so busy, or Mommy is so busy to come and visit you. One day she might appear, but don't go look for her." And don't ask me
Yeah,
about her again. She's really busy. You know,
right.
I told you last time she's really busy. Don't ask me
Mhm.
today because I told you yesterday. It's very similar to the ancient Near Middle East, the Canaanite religion, the
Mm,
origins of the ancient Mesopotamian Canaan community that was living around that area, and they all kind of had a similar pantheonic belief when it came to the god. So you have the Canaanite mythology that talks about Elohim being the most high and his wife
mm.
Ashereth, who
Yes,
we
yes.
doesn't really get talked about much and doesn't get
Hmm.
seen much. And
Hmm.
Asherah gave birth to the 72 sons of Elohim, and Yahweh,
Hmm.
Baal, Marduk, and so many other gods that were around those areas were a part of
Hmm.
their children. And then Yahweh defeats Elohim and marries his mother, Il, and Yahweh becomes El, now
Oh,
inherits the name, becomes El and El Shaddai. I think it becomes kind of like a sweet tooth thing where he enjoys the incest so much that he impregnates his own mother on earth, Mary, as well, to give birth to himself. So yeah, that
well, that
is
took a
yeah.
turn,
Yeah, oh
Evans.
yeah.
All right.
Fun fact: if you're interested, just Google "wife of Yahweh." If you Google "wife of Yahweh" or "wife of Elohim," it will be the same name. It will be like Yahweh and Elohim had the same wife, and that's Yahweh's mother.
That takes the cake. But
Yep.
yes, so in Mormonism, the whole Heavenly Mother situation, how the feminine divine was hidden, even as women were taught to center their entire existence on male authority and a male God. And so
Hmm.
for me, that was always just something that now I look back on and just think is crazy,
Yeah.
because nothing in my programming makes me think that if there was another life and if there was a higher power and if there really was a male and female counterparts, I would want to be just as involved in the lives of my children
Exactly.
as their father. And so to me, that was just a
I
ridiculous belief.
I understand
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Number two, I thought this was crazy that women were divine only when they were submissive. So we were
Oh,
told that women are equal but different, like that we have different roles. But what it really boiled down to, Evans, was that we were secondary, that we needed to be supportive and sacrificial. Basically, we were told over and over again that we needed to be selfless, and that ultimately our greatest goal and achievement in life as females was to become a wife and a mother. And although I love being a wife and a mother, I love my children, I would marry again. I would want to have a family. I enjoy that. That works for me. That's something that
mhm.
I love to do. Now, I do question myself sometimes. Do I love to do it because I've just been doing it for so long? Do I love to do
Uh-huh.
it because I've been conditioned since an early
Yeah.
age? But I also feel like in the world today, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but in the world today, we, as women, because we have been given so many freedoms, which is wonderful, and I'm so glad that it is the way that it is. It's kind of looked down upon if you do choose the path of motherhood. And for me,
Yeah, I understand
I
that.
feel like there's nothing wrong with any choice. I
Mm,
think that if there are women that just really love being moms, be a mom.
yeah.
That's okay. And I actually wish that society would look at that as a job and would look at that as work instead of this unpaid labor that is done on the sides, because it is work, it is labor, and I think it's honorable. That's my opinion.
I agree wholeheartedly because the point of the freedoms that were fought for on behalf of women is for them to be able to be free enough to make the choice. Because
That's
saying
right.
you only have one choice for thousands of
Exactly.
years, and
That's right.
then now it's like no, you don't have one choice, you have multiple choices, including the choice that were forced on you initially anyway. You still have
That's right.
that, and you still have multiple
Exactly.
choices, and it's like, well, okay, some people will still go for that choice. It doesn't mean that they are boxing themselves, although that might look similar to the past where women didn't have a choice, they were forced with that particular choice. When a woman uses her own choice to choose that path, it reminds people of those times, and it kind of triggers some form of like PTSD, traumatic reaction to them. So then they kind of go overboard and they label these people. Obviously, that is not to talk about people who also choose that path and then they look at the rest of the free women and they demonize them as well. So it's like
Yeah,
the demonization. That's the
exactly.
thing. It's
No.
like the demonization and everyone thinking that their path is the path. That's
Yeah,
the problem, really. This is the way. As a woman, you're supposed to do this. It's like no, this is what women have been fighting for people to stop telling women what they are and what they get to do. That's
that's
the
right.
point.
And so for me, it's what you said. It boils down to the beauty of our modern society is choice,
Yeah.
and women are actually given a choice. I think it's wonderful if a mom or if a woman wants to be a mom, and I think it's wonderful if a woman decides for her it's better to have a career and to maybe have help as they mother or to have less children. So I think it's fine. What I think is wrong, what I think is ridiculous is when that path is the only path
Yeah.
and that choice really is the only choice.
Yeah.
And women historically were discouraged from getting jobs. We were asked not to take jobs away from the men, not to enter the workforce, that our role and our place was to be in the home. Satan will go for the cradle. And so the mother needed to be there from the beginning to protect that cradle and to raise these righteous children unto God. And
Yeah.
we were told that men held the priesthood, men presided, men were the default leaders and decision makers. We believe that our highest calling was to be a wife and a mother. And if we didn't marry and we couldn't have children, that was a failure.
Yeah. You're a
And
failure.
that was basically labeling yourself as a pariah, that something is wrong with you
Hmm.
in Mormon society.
Yeah.
So our value was very much linked to that. If we tried to be assertive, ambitions, or were outspoken, we were labeled as difficult, unrighteous,
Proud.
and, even dangerous. And
Yeah.
so
Proud. Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
all of these things were things that, were conditioned early on to just be these submissive partners, helpmeets.
Mm.
And, it gets flowered as generations have gone by into, oh no, we're equal but different. We're equal, but your role is just as important. But it's not what you see in the day to day. What you see in
Yeah.
the day to day is that men are the decision makers. Basically, nothing can get approved, even in the female organization, without the head leader, who is always a man, giving their
Interesting.
thumbs up. That was just how it was and how it is. And ultimately, coming out of my own divorce and everything, I'm just realizing all of that doesn't serve me, even though I want to be a mother and I have no regrets. I just feel like ultimately, having been asked to always sacrifice and put myself second to the
Mm.
family, I lost a lot of my personhood that I'm rediscovering and relearning. And I was trained to believe that any kind of self pursuit was counter to what I'm supposed to do as a
Yes.
wife and a mother.
Yes.
And what I'm actually realizing is that the real truth is by having sacrificed myself for so long,
Hmm.
I did a disservice to my children
Yeah.
because all they know, all they've seen is a submissive wife and mother. And ultimately, what I want them to see is a fully able person that has interests and pursuits just like they do.
Yeah.
They have parents that take them from soccer practice to tennis practice. My 5 young men that I'm raising are growing into their personhood,
Hmm.
and I want them to see that I, as a mother, am doing the same thing. I'm taking acting lessons, dance lessons, also trying to develop myself
Yeah.
as a person
Yeah.
and find out who I am. And I think that that's important for them to see, and that yes, being a mother is wonderful, but so is being a person.
Yeah.
And that I, as an individual, if I really foster my own self and my own personal growth, that only benefits the family. And I
Yeah.
wish that that had been the messaging. I wish that the messaging had been, if you can become the best person that you can be, then everybody benefits.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to have a career or become a mother and a wife, everybody will benefit if you develop yourself as a person. But instead, women are told to put themselves last and to be submissive and to be selfless. And I think that comes at a greater cost in the
Hmm.
long run.
Yeah.
And so that's my take on that.
Yeah, it's a very powerful take. You're right. I don't have much to add on that except for you need to watch The Handmaid's Tale, Ali. I've been
I know you
trying to
keep telling
get
me
I've
that.
been trying to get Ali to watch this show, and it's like you need to watch the show or at least read the book.
Okay.
It has a book as well. It's quite
Is it similar?
interesting. It's
Mm.
well, it's the blueprint, really. Don't know if I can even say it's extreme because looking at the past, what has happened, The Handmaid's Tale is not even an extreme. It's kind of like a caricature form of what used to be in the past. What is number
Number
three?
3 for me is that Black people were less valiant in the pre existent, and that is why they were denied the priesthood, access to all the benefits of the temple, the ceiling, everything that is related with,
Less valiant. What does that mean?
well, Evans. Basically, in the pre existence, there was a war in heaven. They were less valiant, and so because of that, they were given a different skin.
Wait, as in they were losers?
They were probably on the fence. They were fence sitters.
Oh,
Maybe
right.
they didn't side. They were kind of like, Satan's plan, it sounds pretty good to me. And then some of them were probably like, Jesus's plan is a little bit better. I don't know which one I should choose.
I
And so
see.
they were on the fence. And so they ultimately went with Jesus's plan. So they were given permission to come down to earth. But because
Right.
they were kind of lukewarm, they were given a skin of blackness.
Oh, I
Now, that is
see.
one of many theories that are
Okay.
circulated
Okay.
about why Black people are Black.
Yeah.
Some of it was that they bore the curse of Cain. I wanted to read this quote from an LDS prophet,
Okay.
and this is going to tie into another one of the things that I believe that were crazy. Anyway, this is by the LDS prophet Harold B. Lee, and he said, "The privilege of obtaining a mortal body on this earth is seemingly so priceless that those in the spirit world, even though unfaithful or not valiant, were undoubtedly permitted to take mortal bodies, although under penalty of racial or
Oh.
physical or nationalistic limitations." Evans,
Okay.
what this means
What?
is that basically, if you are Black,
Mm-hmm.
if you are disabled,
Mm-hmm.
if you come from a third world country, it's your own fault. You basically were
Oh,
not
I
valiant
chose. Right.
in the pre earth life.
Yeah.
That's why you came down here in a crippled body. And that's
Yeah.
why you're Black, Evans.
Ah, so I was sitting on the fence. I was like, I kind of like Jesus's plan because he's serving chicken and watermelon. But then,
And
Satan came with sponge cake and
then you
velvet,
were
and
like,
I was
oh,
like,
that
oh, that's
one.
kind of. I,
Yeah.
I mean, I like cake, and I also like chicken and watermelon. So it's like,
Yeah.
damn, man, like how?
Yeah.
And then it's like,
But
oh, but I like
but
chicken and watermelon
Evans,
more, so I went with Jesus. And then
yeah.
it's like, yeah,
But
but you weren't really hardcore,
right.
so you're
But
black.
you see me, you see how my complexion is so pearly white and everything.
Yes.
I
Yes.
went for the chicken and watermelon. Like, I mean,
Like
I'm
straight
no
up,
dummy.
like you
I
you
was
you
like,
were like,
I'm not even considering the
you were like
cake.
chicken and watermelon
Yep.
today,
That
Any
is what's
day.
going to happen. And I've got my white skin. And that is also why I was not born in a crippled body.
I
And it's also
see.
why I was not born in a third world country because
Mm-hmm.
I made the right choices in the pre-earth
You
life.
chose the
And
chicken.
again, it's a ridiculous ideology that
You see,
we were
people,
taught.
this is why cake is bad. Like this is why cake is unhealthy. Because you be black.
So, what I wrote was that black people were somehow neutral in the war in heaven and that their skin color was a
Mm.
curse or a mark of lesser spiritual standing. This
Wow.
racist theology was taught from the pulpit for decades and used to justify excluding black men from the priesthood and black families from temple blessings until 1978. People were basically given the answer that we don't know why, God's ways are higher. But if you look back and you just do a little bit of research, you really don't even have to do very much. You can read the rhetoric, you can read the ideology. Like
Yeah.
I've shared in the past, their descriptions of how Black people were less intelligent, therefore, they needed to be servants and slaves. Here's another thing that baffled me when people say as the answer that, well, that was just at the time, that racist rhetoric was just what people were saying. Well, here's the thing. Brigham Young and Abraham Lincoln
Mm-hmm.
were contemporaries. They were living at the same time and had access
Ah.
to the same things. I am supposed to believe that since Joseph Smith, God has spoken directly to man through his prophets. So,
Okay.
am I really supposed to believe that Brigham Young, the second prophet of the Mormon faith, was less inspired than Abraham Lincoln, who was
Yeah.
president of the United States? Evans, I just cannot swallow this anymore.
Oh
For
wow.
me, it's like Abraham Lincoln died. He sacrificed his life
Yeah.
and he fought for just as all the abolitionists of that same period were
Sure.
fighting. They recognized the personhood of people of color,
Yeah.
but the prophet of the Mormon faith did not.
Wow.
And I am
Wow.
supposed to believe that he was inspired.
Mm.
I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't say this to disparage the Mormon faith. I say this because it is wrong.
Yes.
And I get passionate about this because I have a black son.
Yeah.
And I will not have him reading that and believing that this faith is the true and only faith. And this same faith said awful, horrific things about my son just because of the color of his skin.
Yeah.
I will not stand by that. And I
Yeah.
will not have another person suffer or struggle or have any kind of a racist thought enter into their head because of this faith. And so for me, it
Oh
is
wow.
a
Yeah.
very sore topic.
Mm.
And although we're joking and we know that this is ridiculous,
Yeah.
it is what was taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
just can't circle my head around it anymore. And the mental gymnastics
Wow.
will not be played.
Yeah.
And I am a staunch advocate
Yeah.
for debunking any kind of God's ways are higher and we don't understand what was going. No, we
Oh,
understand
we know.
exactly what was going
We
on.
know.
Historically,
Yeah.
people were giving their lives
Mm.
to end slavery and to end racism for Black people. And to this day, people are still
Yeah.
fighting
Yes.
and advocating for people of color. It's systemic. It has put people of color behind white people for
Yeah.
generations just in the United States alone. That's what I can speak to. And I am not going to believe for a second that God looked at them any different. So for me, that's insanity. And I will not believe in that ridiculous
Oh man,
rhetoric.
well put. It like spoken like a mama bear, like a true mama bear. You know,
Thank you.
like this is passion from Ali. Thank oh damn, like this the room is filled with smoke. Yeah, I need to have like an effect. Like the more you speak, the more smoke appears on the screen. Like whoa,
Yeah, don't mess with my baby.
don't do
Mm-mm.
that. Don't do that, guys.
Nope.
It's not advisable.
Nope.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I will come for you.
What I wanted to add to that is it's very funny when you look at ancient native religions, religious practices that
Mhm.
is not the West. Majority of those religions hardly had an explanation for why black people existed.
Mm.
Hardly. A lot of those native religions understood the idea, the concept of being one with nature, of not being necessarily above nature, but with being a part of it all and the fact that we're all connected
Okay.
in a very interesting way. No one is higher above the other, and we're all kind of linked. Earth is our mother, depending on which side of the yin and yang that you fall. Until you have an imperial mindset as to
Hmm.
one people being chosen. Once you have the ideology deep into the core of a religion,
Yeah.
you have to explain why black people exist.
Yeah.
Because when you're around, when your religion is coming from the West, where majority of people are white skinned, majority of people that were slaves were black in the West, in ancient times, in Rome, in Greece, Persia. When you have an ideology of a chosen people group, a special group who has one God, who has his goal and has chosen one person to lead this
Hmm.
special people group, you have to explain why these people have different skin colors and
That's
all of
right.
you have skin colors. You have to
That's right.
explain it. When you don't have that concept bedded into your ideology, you don't need to
Yes.
explain why black people exist because all human beings originated from the plains of Africa. Africa is the motherland of the world. It is the mother of Earth. A lot of us just migrated from
That's right.
into the mountain of Caucasus, and people acclimatized to the weather of that time, and obviously that has a reflection of your skin and how much pigmentation you can take and get taken away from your skin. Like we know this,
Yeah.
and you don't need to explain why. You don't need to ever look around when you have, dare I say, spiritual one with nature kind of religion. It will bend towards curiosity when we see someone of a different skin, but it wouldn't mean that they were better or worse until the idea was planted from the West. So the religion come from the West and say, "Oh, we see black people. We've never seen these people before, but we already know that we are chosen people. So why are they black? Ah, we
Yeah.
know the curse of Ham, the curse of Cain,
Yeah. And for us, it was also possibly what happened in the war in heaven.
the
So,
war in heaven." Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
My number four kind of goes hand in hand with that quote that I was reading earlier from Harold B. Lee. And that again is that people with disabilities chose their challenges before birth or were given to
Wow.
them as a test. We believed that people with disabilities chose their circumstances in the premortal life
Mm-hmm.
or that God gave them these trials. And sometimes it's been spun that instead of it being a negative, like Harold B. Lee made it sound, the church has slowly moved away from that rhetoric, even though that was what was heavily the belief when my mother's generation was young in the
Mm-hmm.
church. Now they moved away from it more and they talk more about how they were so righteous that they didn't need to be tested in this life. And so they've
Oh,
come
hey,
down.
the same thing. The same thing.
Yeah.
They do the same
So,
thing. Oh, God's wife is so holy, so she doesn't need to see, to have
yeah,
a relationship with you, and you
exactly.
are disabled because you're so special. Yeah.
Exactly. You're
Wow.
disabled because you are extra righteous, and so you don't need to be tested like the rest of us. The harm that this does is that it turns these complex human realities
Mm-hmm.
into simplistic spiritual lessons
Right.
that erase real world needs for addressing of these issues. It totally prohibits any thought in forms of helping these people have more accessibility, inclusion, justice,
Mm-hmm.
because everything then is part of God's plan. And so
Yes.
we're able to turn it off
Yeah.
like a light switch. If
Uh,
you know the Book of Mormon musical,
oh wow.
that this is like
We need you to sing one song for us one day.
no, no, no. Yeah. That I don't know if our public would really like to hear me sing, but
Yeah, I
the
would. I
point
know I would.
is, the point is that by creating these explanations, we stop thinking and it shuts
Yes.
down thought, and we then don't do anything about major things that are happening in society. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
now going to go to number five, which also kind of goes hand in hand with this, which is the LGBTQ people. Again, these people are looked at as having this trial given to them,
Mm.
and that it can only be fixed through prayer, celibacy, and obedience. And we were basically told that God's love is conditional, that God loved the LGBTQ people, but only if they didn't act on who they are. So basically,
Yeah.
he created these people.
Mm-hmm.
They are the way that they are, but they have now been asked not to act on their personhood,
Yes.
on becoming again a full person. Again, even like women, we are basically told there's only one path. The righteous, the real righteous
Hmm.
path is not to choose a career, but to choose motherhood and wifehood, and those things are the ultimate path, and anything that strayed or took you off that path wasn't considered good. And the same thing with being gay. Yes, you are, well, let me put it this way. Again, my mother's generation was told that you were not born gay, that this was a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
Choosing the
just
lifestyle.
because science has evolved so much,
Uh-oh.
the church can no longer really back that. And so now it's like, yes, you can be born this way, but God's intention for those that struggle with
Mm.
same-sex attraction
Struggle.
is
Right.
it,
Mm.
it is just a struggle, and
Mm-hmm.
that you need to learn to overcome. And so how you can do that is either choose celibacy, or
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
must marry in a heteronormative union.
Yeah.
And these are the ways to go about it. You need to marry heterosexually, you need to stay celibate in order to be righteous. Again, I'm sorry, but this is another area for me that as a mama bear I can't stomach,
Mm.
because I have seen too many of my own peers from my youth take their own lives
Wow.
because we have lived in this way of thinking, in this culture where
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, not black people, but LGBTQ people are not accepted,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not understood, that they are looked at as undesirable. They are looked at as people that need to overcome this, that they need to stop with advocating for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and the pride events, any assertion of them as being regular participating humans in the human race is just not accepted.
Mm-hmm.
What they need to do is either choose a life of celibacy,
Mm-hmm.
or marry into relationships that ultimately only lead to pain and struggle. I have people very close to me that made those choices, and their
Wow.
partners only bore, the price of that, and so did they. And it just, they don't get to live authentically. And the sad truth is that these people are beautiful, and are and take up their space, and they make the world brighter and richer. And I get so enraged when I think of any rhetoric
Yeah.
that goes against what I've just said, because ultimately these kids then are left feeling like they were kind of the damaged product off the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And I won't stand for that,
Yeah.
because they are just as beautiful, and they add just as much color and flavor to humanity. And we need them,
Yeah.
just like we need people of color.
Yeah.
And so, any religion that doesn't fully embrace the LGBTQ community is one that is, in my opinion, deplorable. And I won't
Mm.
have any part of it.
That's a very nice way to put it.
Thank
Deplorable
you.
is like a
I'm
nice word. Oh, okay.
Is
That's
it?
you chose to be polite today. Oh, okay. That's
Thank you.
cool. That's cool.
I am trying. To me, it's harmful. It's harmful rhetoric,
It
and
is.
it's not just harmful,
It is.
Evans. The truth is, I've just seen too many people end their lives
Yeah.
and suffer,
Yeah.
and we only
Well,
have one life to live.
well,
And as
I guess they didn't pass the test,
yeah,
Ali. You know, they failed the test. They should have dealt with it. You know, I mean, after all, God will not give you struggle that you are not equipped to overcome. You know, God will not
that's right.
give you put you into
That's
temptation that He's not equipped you to
yeah.
overcome. So if you decide to take your own life, then obviously you failed.
And the truth is that if I were to imagine a higher power,
Mm.
I would believe that he made black people because black is awesome, and
Mm.
LGBTQ people because LGBTQ people are awesome, and handicapped, disabled people are awesome.
Yeah.
All of these people, all of us, we are all lucky to have this go around, this one go around on this planet. And we're in each other's lives to enrich them. And instead of spending our energy trying to figure out and create reasons for why one person is lesser than another, that
Yeah.
is not energy I want to spend. And I
Yeah.
will not spend any more energy
Yeah.
worshiping a God that has outlined systemically
Mm-hmm.
why people are the way that they are,
Mm-hmm.
down to if you're born in a third world country like Ghana.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but to me, it's like that is not a God worthy of my worship.
Me
And
too.
like you said, Mama God is back there tied up, and she is probably saying these things. And that is why we're not allowed
Yeah.
to hear from her. All right, number six for me is salvation and eternal families came with a price tag. And what I mean from
Ah.
that is that families can be together forever, but only if you paid tithing, wore your garments, attended the temple, and kept all the covenants. Basically, it's kind of like spiritual blackmail. If you pay your dues, obey the rules, and you might be together forever. I think one of the
Oh.
unique things about Mormonism is that most other religions, if you ask them, hey, what happens in the next life? Will you be with your family? Most other religions will say, well, yeah, I mean, I will be with my families. In the Mormon faith, it's only if. It's not a
Ah.
given. You will only be with your family in the next life if you are sealed to one another, and we've talked about that briefly in other podcasts, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
follow the rules and you have to be worthy of going into the temple. You being
Wow.
able to enter the temple
Mm-hmm.
is your ticket to knowing that most likely God is going to let you be with your family forever. And so they
Mm.
put the fear of God in you. If you're not behaving a certain way, you
Wow.
may not be with your family in the next life. And so you have that motivation through fear to keep in line, to stay
Wow.
in your lane and to do what you're told to do. So for me, it's like, okay, if I want to be with my children forever, in essence, they are being kept hostage
Yeah.
because if I don't do A, B, and C, I risk I risk the
Wow.
eternal salvation of my family. And so I have to do this. I know that when I left the Mormon faith, I even got a letter from a family member basically telling me that game over, you have now broken the link and your kids are not going to make it in the next
Oh
life.
wow.
And
Yeah. Oh,
this
they
has
wrote you.
eternal.
They wrote you. They were kind enough to remind you. Oh
Yes.
right, right, right. Okay, okay. No,
They
that's what family does. Yeah, we're there for each other like that. Hmm.
But it's not their fault, Evans. That's the programming. They are warning me. They are reminding me. They are
Yeah,
calling me back to repentance because they are like, do you understand what's at stake here?
yeah, yeah.
This is like in them. This is not coming from a bad place. This is coming from their indoctrination.
Yes.
And they have been told that this is putting in jeopardy
Yeah.
so many things instead of looking at it as, hey, you know what? You're a good mom and you are living your truth. You are doing what you feel is right. You're teaching your kids to be good humans. And if there is a next life, everything's going to be okay. No, it's all dependent on whether I pay 10% of my income, whether I'm wearing the Mormon underwear correctly at all times, and following all the rules, keeping the covenants that I made in the temple. And that falls under that, the secrecy of Mormonism that we
Yeah.
can divulge into is
Yeah.
the things that go on in the temple. But ultimately, for this podcast, I just wanted to stress that it comes at a price.
Hmm.
You cannot just go to heaven. You cannot be with your family forever. There's a price tag.
Wow, that is so powerful, and like you said, it is spiritual blackmail and also emotional
Mhm.
blackmail too.
Yeah.
And it also explains why a lot of Mormon families would be strict, because
Yes.
they are being
Yes.
strict because that's the loving thing to do, at
Mhm.
least from their perspective. The loving thing to do is to be so strict to make sure that you're all sealed to each other. You're making sure that everyone is wearing the right clothing, everyone is, going according to the rules. I think I would be a very good Mormon if I was a Mormon. If I yeah, I think I should give it a shot. What do you think, Ali? Oh,
I
maybe.
think you're black and you were neutral in the war
Oh
in
yeah,
heaven.
I wanted
I I,
cake.
I
Oh
think
yes.
I think you already kind of stand out
Yeah,
and
sorry.
not in a good
I
way.
forgot that
I'm
I wanted
sorry.
cake too. Yeah, damn.
You're kind
Bloody
of
cake.
like, I
All
mean,
right.
we let you in 1978,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
you
mean,
did.
it's like
Oh.
I don't know if we really, yeah,
You
I'm
really
just
you
teasing.
oh you don't vibe with me like that? Okay. Well,
No,
I mean
no,
that I get it. I get it.
yeah.
I'll try in the next life. I'll try to choose the chicken
Hey,
and the watermelon in the next life.
Evans, if
Um
I've made you feel secondary as a female, I'm also secondary. So it's like, unless you're a white
there
male
is
and you're heterosexual and you embrace the patriarchy, you're really not the chosen one. I'm a little bit better than you, but
Oh
still
right. Oh
on the
right.
side.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because you were
Yeah.
very definite on that. You were very definite on the choices that you made, and I was kind of unsure. So that makes me quite unsure. I mean, thinking about it, sometimes I find it difficult to decide what to wear. So I guess it would explain, and sometimes what to eat too. Like that's like my biggest struggle to deciding what to eat. So
You're
that
funny.
could explain why I am in fact black.
You're
Although
always,
I happen to love being black. God damn it. Even in mainstream Christianity, you can be self-assured as much as you want about your gateway to heaven if you pray to Jesus and you're remorseful and you try not to live that life again and you ask Jesus to come and live in your heart, you have a relationship with Jesus. Even when you do that, how sure can you be that your children are doing that, even though they say, because
yeah.
even Christians know that each other, that they can point out who is not a true Christian and who is not a true Christian.
Yeah.
What the idea of what
Yeah.
Christian is hardly defined by Christians themselves. Christians have no problem looking at other Christians and telling them that they are not true Christians simply because of some minor differences. The way they pray in church, the way they dress up in church, the way they have no problem calling Mormons, obviously you guys are a cult because you have secret handshakes
Mhm.
and you have secret underwears. But then
Mhm.
they go into church buildings and then they drink a wine and they eat a cake and they think that that's the body of Christ and that's the blood of Christ, and that's not weird. But your
No.
secret underwear, that's weird.
Isn't
Like
it funny?
it's so funny. It's just like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like if you point a finger, the rest of it is pointed back at you. Even in mainstream Christianity, there is still that emotional blackmail to say, how sure can you be?
Yeah.
Because not only do you have to live as a Christian in life, because even if you do, at the end of the day, Jesus Christ will say to you, well, not everybody that calls me Lord shall enter that heavenly home. So that means that you can still be a Christian, profess to be a Christian, live your life as a Christian. Everybody knows that you're a Christian and still be rejected at the gate at the end of the day. So even then, as a mainstream Christian, how sure can you be that you're going to see your grandmother in heaven? That you're going to
Yeah.
see your family in heaven, that you are going to be in heaven. But when it comes to Mormonism, it's very strictly defined, and that
Yes.
becomes even more sinister than it already is.
Yeah.
Because as a Christian, you can ignore that bit and just, gentle Jesus, make a mild, la 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 la. You can kind
Exactly.
of ignore those dark things and just embrace the light and
Yep.
chocolate candy things. But with
Yeah.
Mormonism, it doesn't really allow you to do any of that. It just tells you point blank that if you are not sealed, you are not going.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And also, there's going to be empty seats at the table if you're the weak link. So, yeah, none
Damn!
of
The
that.
weak,
Yeah. Yeah.
the weak link. Oh my goodness. So you are the weak link of your family, Ali.
I
I
am. I will
mean,
not be seated
horrible.
at the table, and
Oh,
I will be sitting on Sundays with you, Evans.
oh
So
boy.
that's where I'll be.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll
All
create our
right.
own heaven. That's fine.
Well, speaking of creating our own heavens, another thing that Mormons believed is that one day we will become gods of our own planet. And when I say
Oh,
that, I mean the
what?
men. So
Oh,
we
oh, that's
believe,
fun. I'm a man. I
yeah,
mean, I'm
yeah,
black.
yeah.
Does this still apply to me?
I can't, probably not.
Okay.
So,
For fuck's sake.
but here's the thing.
Do
Here's
I
the
do I
thing.
do I get anything joining this
I
religion? Like, can I
look,
get
look, I'm bearing the bad news. I'm spilling the tea here.
Oh my
I'm sorry if
goodness.
this is hard to stomach, but yeah, you will become a god of your own planet someday if you are a worthy Mormon man,
Okay.
and you will have like your eternal wife or wives, and we'll get to polygamy in a minute.
Oh.
You will continue to create spirit children. And basically, the doctrine is what God did on this
Mhm.
planet is what we are going to one day do on our own planets. And so
Ah, I
we're going to be able
see.
to do kind of the same thing. And so
Okay.
when I was Mormon, I would joke and I would say, "Oh, my goodness, in my in my planet, I'm going to have, I don't know, like I'm going to be able to domesticate hippopotamuses because I love that.
Oh, that's
I'm
cute.
going to, there won't be anything such as calories. We'll be able to eat whatever we want. Like, you know, I
That's fun.
had, yeah, I
So
had
petting
fun ideas.
hippopotamus and no calories. I think that
Yeah.
is a word that is miles better than what we already live in. Like
Thank you.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I can
you,
get behind that.
yeah,
We will keep cancer. Like we will keep everything. We will keep
yeah.
cancer. We will keep natural
Oh,
disaster.
sure,
We will
sure.
keep everything. But just petting hippopotamus and no calories. I think I
Those
think
are two big things. But yes,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that is a big thing. Oh my goodness, yeah. So,
I agree. I
um,
understand.
I'm trying to think. Another crazy one is that the Garden of Eden was in Jackson County,
No
Missouri.
way. In
Again, that is a
America?
reference. Yes, that's a reference to the Book of Mormon musical. Shout out to anybody that has watched that because
Okay.
here's the
Wait, what's the
irony.
show? What's the show again?
The Book of Mormon musical?
Oh, right. I need to go see that. I really want to go see that.
Evans. Yeah,
I really want
it
to go see
is.
that.
It's really okay. Here's the thing. I was always told about the Book of Mormon musical, like, don't watch it because it's anti-Mormon or whatever.
Hmm.
And so you're supposed to stay away from it. When it came out, I always was like, well, I don't understand why the church is discouraging us from going to see it. Shouldn't they encourage us to go to see it? And then when we come out of it, we can say, oh, these are all the things that they got wrong, and this isn't true.
Right.
Here's the truth. When I finally did give myself permission to go see it,
Did you watch as a
Evans.
Mormon?
No, 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 I did not watch it
Oh,
as a Mormon.
right.
I
Okay.
watched it post-Mormonism.
Okay. Okay.
But at that point, I'm a scholar in Mormonism, so I knew
Right.
everything because I had done my deep dives. It's almost 100% accurate. All the things that they talk about in there are exactly what we believed.
What?
And so there's nothing anti-Mormon in
What?
it. It's just it is satirical and it's farcical
Yes.
because it lays out the craziness of Mormonism. And one of the things is
Wow.
that we believe that the Garden of Eden is in Jackson County, Missouri, and that Adam and Eve lived there and they will return there. That is where the second coming is going to be.
Oh, in Missouri?
Evans, in Jackson County, Missouri.
It- you keep singing that.
Yes. I keep singing that because it's from the musical. You're just gonna have to watch
I need
it,
to go see
okay?
it. I need to go see it.
Yes.
Wait,
Yes, you do.
hold on. Wait. So God the Father, God the Father like created the planet, and he's like, all right, I need a place to start, and
Yep.
he's like, all right, okay.
It wasn't
It wasn't
Africa.
Africa.
It wasn't
It wasn't
Africa.
the place with the richest soil, the richest trees, the richest of rivers, the richest of seas,
Nope.
the richest of anything. No, it
Nope.
was in America.
It was in
It was in
Jackson
Jackson
County,
County.
Missouri.
Yeah, very specific
Yes,
too.
sir.
Like
It is very specific.
it had a
Yep.
county and it has the city. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's the crazy part is that we were part of the legend is that we're told that when the second coming is about to happen, that a certain amount of the Mormons were gonna get, letters or get told, okay, everybody needs to gather in Jackson County,
Oh.
Missouri. So I remember there have been people that like even sold things and felt inspired to move to Jackson County, Missouri, and that they should live there and migrate there because that's where the second coming is and they're going to be there. And we had a family friend that moved there. And I remember my mom saying, hey, can we park our car in your driveway when the day comes? And so, like, part
No.
of it was tongue in cheek, but part of it, I think, is like what Mormons really believe that that is what's going to happen. So it is
Wow.
a little
So
bit.
I'm just imagining what it means to say the second coming is will be in
Jackson County, Missouri.
Jackson County, Missouri. Like, what
Yes.
does that mean? Because in mainstream Christianity, he's going to
Yeah.
appear in the clouds and all eyes shall see him. But in
Yeah.
Mormonism, he's going to appear in Missouri. So okay, so we will have. Do we have to get a plane ticket to go to Missouri to get judged? Like, how does it?
Yeah,
How? Oh wait.
more or less.
Wow, I need to save my money then. I need to save money to get a plane ticket.
Well, I mean, obviously that's where it's gonna start, and
Oh,
then
oh, he's gonna
hopefully,
move
and then he's gonna
places.
go on tour.
No, no, that's not true. That can't be. That can't be true.
I'm sorry. That's what we believe. We believe that the second coming is going to be there and that that's where he's going to come. And then I'm sure he's going to then, circulate and get to everybody. But like,
Wait,
that's where it's
so
going to
he'll be like, so
start.
you have like a convoy, like you have like a
I don't
like
know, Evans. I don't,
like, all right,
I don't
that's the
know.
first batch. Second batch. Oh, that's God, right?
I just know that that's where Adam and Eve were put on the earth. And I also know that that is where the second coming is going
All
to
right, we
at
hear you.
least
We
begin.
hear you, Ali. We hear
And
you.
Evans, you're black, and this doesn't apply to you anyway,
Oh,
okay?
yeah, that's
No,
true. I don't know why I'm criticizing it. Like, he wouldn't even
I
come to
know.
see me anyway.
Like, don't worry about it, because like you're secondary to all of this. So it
God.
doesn't matter. Get it. I'm gonna go on to another one. Joseph Smith was told by God, commanded by God to marry more than one wife, specifically 14-year-olds, specifically other men's wives. And again, this is what's crazy is that the story is that he was commanded to do this, but then
Oh,
also he
commanded.
was told, yes, it wasn't
Oh,
just
poor
commanded.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Evans, I want to make this very, very clear. None of this had anything to do with sex. Okay?
Oh,
None of
okay.
it. This is completely righteous and this is completely on the up and
Oh,
up and everything. So
straight
none of
from
this.
God.
Yeah. Well, no, it was so important to God. This was so important to God that polygamy was restored on the earth through
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Smith. That when
Oh.
Joseph Smith was like, I don't know, God was like, I am sending an angel with a
Oh.
flaming sword, and
Oh.
I am going to have this angel destroy you if you do not enter into polygamous
Oh
marriages. And
no.
I don't care if you need to, marry 14-year-olds or other men's
Oh.
wives, all of it. You do what I tell you because this is so important to me. This was really important to
Oh.
God. God cared more about this. He cared more about sending this angel with a flaming sword than sending an angel with a flaming sword telling Brigham Young that slavery is evil and that black people are worthy of personhood and should be entitled to all the privileges.
God was so concerned, like you said. This is a big deal. So
Yes,
it's probably
this
one.
is the big deal.
It's probably one of those flaming swords that he used to block Eden, like the Garden of Eden.
Yes,
It's one of those. So now
exactly.
there's one sword in
This,
Garden
yes.
of Eden now, and one of the swords
Yeah.
was borrowed to go
Yeah,
and
they
tell
had to borrow it.
Joseph Smith to marry
Yeah.
Poor guy, like he had to
Okay.
marry the multiple
I don't
girls.
I genuinely don't want to
Oh,
make fun of it too much because ultimately this is legit, Evans. The Mormon faith believes that God sent an angel with a flaming sword to destroy Joseph Smith if he didn't enter into polygamy. This is legitimate. You have to wrap your head
wow,
around a God that cared more about that than
wow,
about all these other horrible injustices that are
that's
still happening
crazy.
today.
That's
So
crazy.
this was, yeah,
Yeah, he's got priorities.
he does.
He's got.
He does. And this was one of them. And again, it wasn't, for Joseph Smith to be able to have permission then to fulfill his natural vices and indulge in
No, no,
his,
no, no,
sexual
no,
lusts
no, no,
and so on. None
no.
of
That
that.
would be absurd.
That would
That
be
would be
absurd.
absurd.
But it was necessary. Not just
Yeah.
necessary, but it was also necessary for exaltation. And that is one of the things that is a hallmark of the Mormon faith. We're known for our polygamous past. And I would be happy to do a podcast just tearing into the
Oh.
absurdity and the whoredom of what went down
Hey,
during those. polygamous years of the faith.
Just
So, and
just pick
there
up the phone and call me, Ali, when you're ready for that talk, and I will facilitate it. Come on,
And
let's do
sadly, there
this.
are still remnants of that today. And I'm going to share that one of the things that is within Mormonism is that, for example,
Hmm.
so here's how sealings work. A man is sealed to his wife,
Hmm.
and if the wife dies and he remarries, he can then be sealed to that woman. Because in the next life, we believe that a man can be married to more than one woman. Now, if a woman is married to a man and that man dies and she remarries, she cannot be sealed to more than her first husband.
Oh, so
So
she's still sealed with the first husband.
she will always be sealed to the first husband and she cannot take on
Oh.
the other men. So look at this scenario. Husband and wife get married.
Mm,
A tragic accident happens. The man
mm.
dies after only a year of marriage. She meets later on another man and is married to him for 60 years. She is not sealed to that man. She will always be sealed to the first man.
Oh,
And
right.
so forever there, but the other side of that is, though, if that same scenario happened the other way around
Hmm.
and the man remarried, and let's say that woman passed and remarried, he could be sealed to as many women as he's married to in this life,
Ah,
and it extends polygamy into the eternities. There is the fear
interesting.
of eternal polygamy, and a lot of women um of my generation lived in fear of that because
Wow.
we we wanted to just, be with our one husband and
Yeah.
that's it. But we were always living in the fear of them being asked to enter into polygamy and all those things. But again, that is a podcast for another day. But
Definitely.
this is
Wow.
definitely something that is a stain on Mormonism that still hasn't been
Wow.
reconciled
Do you
today.
think with time they will reconcile it? They will have another revelation from God
No.
to oh, this one is
No,
very,
I
very
I think this
important.
suits the men too much. I think that
Ah,
this is something that, again, you asked me for my personal opinion. I think if they
yes.
wanted to fix it, they would have fixed it by now. I
Mm.
think that ultimately it serves them because a lot of the Mormon prophets have been married and sealed to multiple women, their wives. The current
Ah,
LDS
okay.
prophet
Okay.
technically is sealed to two women. The one he was married to and had all his children with, who passed away, and the one that he's married to currently today. He's sealed to both of them. Now, if the tables were turned, no, a woman can't have more than one husband, but a man can. And so it's again one of these rules. And obviously,
Mm.
this is the order of God. This is how he wants it.
He sent a flaming sword.
And yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He really did. And that was really, really important. Of course, the LGBTQ community, people of color, people with disabilities, those aren't
Right. Right.
important, but
Right. Okay.
polygamy is. Okay.
I
All
see. I
right, next
see.
one. Baptizing dead people helps save them. In
Oh,
Mormonism,
like the
temple
Catholics.
work.
Hey.
What?
Like the Catholics. It's very similar.
Catholics? They
Yeah.
don't baptize dead people.
Oh wait, what did they? Oh, they pray for that people. That's what they do.
I'm
I think there's
Yeah,
the
but they don't
purgatory.
we take it a next level. We
Oh,
baptize them, we seal them, we marry them. We do pretty much all the work for them because
hold on. When you say baptize them, can you what do you
all
mean?
right.
Are their
Yeah.
dead bodies being
Okay.
put in?
No.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
okay.
All right. We're not that weird.
Okay,
I
right. See,
mean, come
hey, I
on.
mean, at this
We're
point, at this point,
I know, right? I'm taking you like you're like, I would believe anything, Allie.
I would.
I know. All right. So this is how you do it. It's all done by proxy. So as
Ah,
a youth,
okay.
I would go to the temple and there's a baptismal font. And basically,
Mm.
just like I was baptized as a child, they would say that I was being baptized for this person who has passed away.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
therefore, I am getting baptized for that person. Then I go through the whole marriage ceremony to marry them to their partner in this life. And then I would seal all the children to them because this chain, this link is super, super important. And so we do everything through proxy work,
Okay.
whether they consent or not. And so there were periods of time that people were doing baptisms for the dead and doing all these, linking through sealings for people that died in the Holocaust, for Jews that were killed in Auschwitz or any of the concentration camps. It got so bad that the Jewish people, the Jewish community had to basically call out the Mormon faith and say, stop it, because this is not okay.
Mm.
And so so basically, we do all this proxy work for everybody but Jewish people. But yes, technically, you can look into the records, and people like Elvis Presley, people like Hitler, people like other figures have had their baptismal work done, have had, so they're all Mormons in heaven.
Wait, wait, Hitler's a Mormon? Oh,
Nothing says love like a surprise posthumous conversion, you know?
I'm just
Like,
imagining how the afterlife works, right? Like, let's say you're on your way to hell, right? Like, you're on your way to
yeah.
hell, and it's like, wait, hold on. In case maybe the Catholics are praying for you to go to purgatory, or the Mormons are baptizing you to go to heaven,
Yeah.
right?
All jokes aside, I mean, when we die, what happens is you go to what's called the spirit world, and the ones
Ah,
that are in spirit prison are waiting for the day for a Mormon to go to the
I
temple and do the
see.
temple work for them. That's why temple work is so stressed and so important.
Interesting.
The irony is that, so my mother, she was really, really big into temple work and did genealogy, even professionally for other people.
Okay.
And she stressed so much, we need to go to the temple. Saturdays for me was to go to the temple as a youth and do all the baptisms for these, deceased people.
Hmm.
And it was just a work for salvation. And I remember getting to a point with her where I never said this to her, but I always felt it, where I felt she cared more about the dead than the living. And I would argue that the Mormon faith is one of those faiths that really cares more about the dead than the living. Like, we really could treat
Yeesh.
each other horribly, thinking, well, hey, in the next life, it'll be better. And we stress
Wow.
so much, we must get all this work done in order for all of our deceased ancestors to be able to make it to the next life, and also for these other figures that weren't given the full truth on this earth, and now we can
Wow.
do that. And but here's the thing, it is contingent on whether they accept it or not. So in the next life, so as they're sitting there in spirit world, they're
Okay.
basically said, hey, your temple work has been done. And we have this mythology where it's like, well, then they can either accept it or not. But obviously, if they've made it that far, they're going to know that the Mormon faith
Oh,
is the true faith. So they're
right,
going to
right,
be
right,
like,
right, right.
victory. And they're going to be
Ah.
like, great. And then they
There you
can,
go. So like
yeah,
the receptionist or
yes, the
or
receptionist of the,
or the
mhm,
prison guard or whoever
whichever. Yeah.
will come in, the bailiff will come in and
Yeah.
be like, all right, time for you
Yeah.
to go. You've been bailed out,
Yep.
kind of thing. And it's like, yay,
That's
thanks for bailing
right.
me out, kind of.
That is right.
That's interesting. Wow. I
Yeah.
don't think I'll be bailed out though. I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be bailed out. Like, would they baptize a black person who passed away?
Well, now we can.
Oh, now
Like,
you
we
can.
couldn't
Okay.
up until 1978 because Black people weren't allowed to have all the temple blessings, all the
Mm.
temple work being done for them. So, yeah, now that it's past 1978, you're good,
Oh, I'm
Evans.
good. Okay,
You're
1978.
still
All right. The
not,
spirit world
top tier.
had a new administration after 1978, so like they
That's
have
right.
different policies.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, God spoke in 1978. He didn't send an angel with a flaming sword this time. He was
Oh,
able just to be like, "Hey,
he
it's
could just
cool.
say it.
Yeah, I'm cool.
Wait.
It's
Oh,
all
okay.
good."
So when I see, I'm confused with Mormon God the Father. Like, when does things need him just say, "Hey, it's cool," or "Hey, it's not cool," and when does things need like an angel send the flaming sword? Is it like, is the difference between that and the other one a 14-year-old girl? Like, is that like the is that a priority? Like, because I mean, if you think about it, like, when at any point in time in the Bible, there are a few times where God has sent angels down to do certain stuff, and
Mhm.
he sent an angel down to Mary to tell Mary that, hey, you're gonna be
That's right.
pregnant with, with or without your choice, you're gonna be pregnant. And it's like, I mean, God could have just said it from up there, like, hey, you're gonna be pregnant, but it's like, no, go. So it's very
Yeah.
similar why he would send an angel, not only as an angel but with a flaming sword to go down, because he seemed to have priorities, really. Like, he never sends an angel down
Evans,
for injustice,
Evans,
but
Evans, we've talked about this.
Okay.
Christianity, specifically Mormonism, is all about relevance. It
Oh,
is not
okay.
about values.
Oh,
And at the end of
that's a
the
shame.
day, it's, what did Joseph Smith want at that time? He wanted multiple women and he wanted a workaround. And he wanted to basically say, well, in biblical times, there was the plurality of marriage. And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, God is restoring it on earth at
Mm-hmm.
this time.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I can go around it. One of the most horrific stories, and we can talk about this when I do a deep dive in polygamy, was
Yeah.
that his first wife, Emma, was always opposed. There was only a very short period of time where she finally acquiesced to it after being consistently pressured by him. And
Oh.
the story is that, and it's not a story. This
Oh
is
wow. This
legitimately
is it
documented.
happened. Right.
It
Yeah.
happened. And but the story that I'm about to tell is he kept saying, this, needs to happen. God commanded it. And she was like, I don't like this. Please, I don't want this. And then finally she was like, okay, if I can pick the woman or the women that you marry, then okay, I'll allow it. And so she picked out the gate these two sisters. And Joseph was like, great. And they had a wedding ceremony in front of Emma, and she consented to it, and they were married. Here's the thing, he married them 3 months before behind her back,
Oh wow.
and it's documented.
Oh wow.
And so this man, again, he is the mouthpiece for God. He is our
Interesting.
founding prophet. And God told him to do this. And he also told him to do it deceptively in the worst way possible.
Wow.
And he basically lied to his wife. And he then not just lied, but then he put on a mock ceremony where he told these two
Yeah.
women, hey, I know we got married 3 months ago, but I'm going to need you to
Wow.
play this part so that she thinks it's legitimate. And so he deceived her.
Sheesh.
This is my heritage. This is
Wow.
how it's painted. And again, for me, all jokes aside, Evans, the banter that we have, it is really, we're laughing because it is so absurd,
It
but
is.
it's hurtful at the same time. And
It
I
is.
don't want people to think that we're mocking, because ultimately,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to bring awareness to is that these religions, mine specifically,
Mm-hmm.
is all documented, and there's these stories that it's just, I cannot believe that God cared more about Joseph Smith's sexuality than help relieve the suffering of the world of real legitimate
Wow.
issues.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
absurdity.
Yeah, just to second on that, the reason why we decided to make this kind of like a light-hearted episode is because sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need laughter,
Yeah.
and laughter is a good medicine to soften the blow of the things that
Yeah.
you used
Hmm.
to believe that has taken so much away from your life. And at the end of the
That's right.
day, this is still a journey that we are going through, and we are still dealing with
Yeah.
the tough consequences
Yeah.
of leaving
Yeah.
these structured religions. And I hope that viewers and listeners, you understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a good place to stop. I'm just going to
Yeah.
mention a few other things that I had listed.
Oh boy.
It's kind of like the whole Joseph Smith, the Rock in the Hat, and how he was a treasure hunting farm boy,
Wait,
but
wait,
that
you let the fun stuff at the end?
no, no,
No.
no, no. I mean, we can delve into that, but it's like, okay, it's known that he had, this religion started with a stone and a hat. But if today we use crystals or do tarot cards or
Mhm.
go to a psychic or anything, that's witchcraft, that's crazy.
Yeah,
And so there's
yeah,
that. There's also the fact that, Mormon garments needed to cover you in a certain way, and women specifically were always taught that if you dress immodestly, you were basically causing young men to go astray. We were expected to have that level of modesty, to the point where, although I've left the Mormon faith, I still don't own a piece of clothing that shows my shoulders, because I'm so programmed to feel that that makes me immodest and bad. And I've even heard my children, who are also out of the faith, be like, "Oh, mom, that's immodest," because of the
right,
programming that they
right.
received at an early age as
Wow,
well.
wow,
And then
wow.
I'm just trying to think, oh, also that coffee and tea are bad, but that
Hmm.
soda and sugary drinks and other vices that are far worse for us, those are okay. But these other things that actually maybe even have a good medical backing to them are bad. And so, like, those are kind of like
Yeah.
the pluses to my list.
Oh.
I wanted to say this one though. Shout out to my Latin American friends, because another thing with the Book of Mormon is that Native Americans, well, we know why they have the skin that they have. They're dark
Oh,
skin.
there's an explanation for the skin
There's
too.
an
Oh yeah.
explanation for that
Of
as
course.
well,
Of course.
because they were cursed, because they
Oh, it's
were
always the curse.
also, and but honestly, I have Latin
Wow.
American friends who have left the faith who were told their whole lives that the reason why they were the
Wow.
way that they were was because of what happened in the Book of Mormon, the whole mythology, the whole
Yeah.
story there. And so, again, all of
Wow.
these things are crazy things that I believed in, ridiculous things that I was taught from childhood till now that were true. And again, we've joked, we have laughed, we've had a good time in this podcast, but at the end of the day, these things are harmful. They
Yeah.
hurt people.
Mm.
And the only people that they don't hurt are the people that they don't affect.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, if you don't have a gay son, if you don't have a black son, if you don't have a daughter who wants to pursue her personhood, if you don't have a friend who's Native American or Latin American, if you don't fall into any of these categories, if you don't have a child or a sibling or a mother or a father that has a disability,
Mm.
none of these things really bother you. And you
Mm.
can go on in the religion and be just fine.
Yeah.
But when they
Yeah.
do, and when you have somebody close to you
Mm.
that falls in any of these categories, you will come face to face with some of the dark
Yeah.
history. And
Wow.
if you really do your due diligence and look at these things, I think you can never look at the faith again. And that, to me, is why I'm doing this podcast and why I'm speaking out about it, because it's harmful and it's damaging and it hurts families. Most families don't fit into the frame. Most families are
Mm.
not picture perfect.
Yeah.
Most families aren't that way, but we work so hard to fit into that frame. And
Wow.
I just think there's just so much beauty outside of that frame. And instead of trying to get it all in, live outside the fucking frame.
Man, hey, ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Your Holiness Ship, praise the body. This is some sermon that we just had from Ali, and I am feeling blessed and highly favored by the spirit of our goddess, who is probably
Oh,
tied up
stop it.
in the wardrobe with duct tape over their mouth, screaming.
That's right.
Probably,
Mhm.
allegedly.
Poor
I
thing.
don't want God the Father to
This
sue
is
me.
my attempt to liberate
This
her.
is your attempt. I have learned so much today, and I hope you guys have as well. We're gonna end it here, and we'll be
Yeah.
back with another episode of more. We'll probably do a part two of this,
Oh my
and maybe
goodness.
a part
There's
three,
so
part four. We're
much.
gonna do so much of
There's so
ridiculous
much.
things I believe when I was a
Yeah.
Christian. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
specific to the denomination that we were in,
Correct.
but obviously every Christian is in some particular denomination, unless you are literally non-denominational. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comments
Yeah.
and we will try and answer them
Like,
in time.
subscribe, join us on Sundays for the craziness
Yes.
and the spilling of the tea, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just fun. And
Yes.
it's fun because we must laugh at the crazy.
Hmm.
Otherwise,
I
we go
agree.
crazy.
I
We
agree.
go
Laugh
crazy.
at the crazy and praise the body. That's our sermon, guys. We will see you guys in another episode.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.